We talked recruiting. We talked exclusives. Yeah, I think we're good. That's pretty much like all like the major jazz. I definitely wanted to kind of get that done before we kind of talk about 200 episodes of the Music Mondays podcast. So that'll be our discussion segment for tonight. That'll be really interesting and really really awesome. And I think we're just gonna start from the beginning. Honestly, I kind of wanted to not really keep it simple is the phrase I wanted to use, but I definitely wanted to kind of like start back from the beginning and talk about why this platform even exists and why the show made it this far and how we even made it to 200 episodes and things like that. So let me sip some coffee and let's start from the beginning. Let's talk for a bit and we'll dive into some reactions and reviews right after this. So man, okay. So, for those of you that don't know, my name is Zomb Slays. I am not just some random person from the internet that decided to make a podcast one day. I've been in the underground space for about 8 years. I started making music in 2017. I released my first beat in 2017, actually. And then that same year, I founded a platform with a few other creators titled UVC, Underground Vampire Club, and UVC was the acronym. So, when it comes down to UVC and things like that, what we were kind of in the business of doing was exactly what Music Mondays does now, is promote underground artists that actually deserve it, right? We weren't kind of doing memes and things like that. We weren't really following like the mainstream kind of underground, right? We were really looking for artists with like quite literally 10 followers and like 2 SoundCloud tracks, you know what I mean? Like we weren't super interested in anything that was like big at the time, even if it was like semi like mainstream. Like we just cut it out. Like we were purely underground enthusiasts, and a lot of us were artists to begin with, right? But when we founded UVC, my main role was writing. I got recruited for writing, and I didn't know shit about writing, right? I had a high school diploma, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'll give it a whirl." And I remember I wrote like 2 reviews, and I knew that reviews weren't going to be um, something that I really enjoyed, right? I think reviews are kind of like not my style of writing. I know a lot of people do really well with reviews, right? But it just wasn't my thing. So after that, I continued to write interviews. I can definitely write like bios and things like that and press kits, but when it comes to like pure reviews, I think reviews are special talent, definitely. But again, past that point, I started to write interviews, right? And I started conducting live interviews with tons of artists over the course of 2017 to about 2020. And then I split ways with UVC. UVC eventually got sold to SoundCloud, and now it kind of lies dormant and defunct. That platform's kind of dead. The pages don't really do anything, and it's kind of left to underground history. So, fast forward to 2020. At that time, I probably had like 70 articles under my belt, a good like 50 of them being interviews, and then I kind of didn't know what to do, right? Because I think it was like September of 2020, like it was in the later half of 2020 for sure. That was the first time I had been independent in my career since the start, essentially, right? Because I pretty much started, was producing beats for like 3-4 months, joined EVC, became entrenched into the underground scene, and then when 2020 hit, I was independent for the first time. So I was like, "Fuck, okay, what am I gonna do?" And independent, not being like contract independent. Contract, we didn't do any of that. We were very young back then. I think I was like 21. You know what I mean? And everybody else was like 18, and there's a couple of people that were like 25. So like like we were younger. So there wasn't any like contracts involved. What I mean by independent was like I was freelance is what I do want to say. Freelance is definitely the better word there. Um, that was the first time in my career I was ever like alone. I was like, fuck, like what am I gonna do? Because I still had like all the connections to like I still had all my homies, I still had all the artist connections, but I was by myself for the first time. So I was like, okay, how the fuck am I gonna deal with this? Because I have this stacked resume. I have a cool library of songs. I've been in the scene for like 4 years at this point. What's my next move? So I kind of took the rest of the year off, right? From like September 2020 to like probably like I guess December was when I kind of started rolling around an idea of my head of starting my own podcast, right? Because I think around at that time, the big thing was podcasts, right? I think it was like before like the podcast bro era where, it was like a meme to start a podcast and shit like that. It was like right before that. It was right before like the big podcast boom. And I was always a yapper to begin with. I'd always love to talk, but I didn't know what to talk about at the time. But then it kind of dawned on me that like I had a lot of information and a lot of tips and tricks and a lot of like experiences to share over the course of like the last 4 years of being in like, underground blogging and writing and, seeing underground artists like go from zero to hero, like with my own two eyes. So I was like, there's a lot of information that I kind of have that I feel like would be beneficial to the scene. So originally, I just started this as a podcast. Like it wasn't meant to be a platform yet. I think for the first probably like 10 episodes, it was known as Zomb Slays Music Mondays was the original name. And like I was checking tweets before I went live just to like make sure I wasn't tripping. And it was a good first 10 episodes where I kind of was just doing this as a podcast, right? Like there was no submissions, like you couldn't submit. It was just me ranting for an hour about underground politics, the underground scene, the pandemic, do's and don'ts, and things like that, right? But it was still just an hour. And then, doing it live was one thing, right? Because not everybody was doing live shows back then, especially during 2020. Everybody was kind of just recording them and posting them. But I was one of the only like live shows. But I wasn't even streaming on PC yet. I was streaming directly from my console, right? With some Skate 3 gameplay in the background. So it was quite literally like the bare minimum. Like when I tell you that Music Mondays was like, it was really just like a passion project for me at the time, just to see if I could like really do it, right? And that was where I think about, because like I said, the first 10 episodes was known as Zomb Slays Music Mondays. And then after a while, it kind of started to dawn on me that like maybe I should get submissions to be played here on the show. Maybe I should kind of do, a certain amount of X, Y, or Z here on the show. So I was like, So I started fiddling around in my head about really what I wanted to do when it came to this. And eventually I started taking submissions, but I started taking submissions before Music Mondays was even a platform. So again, all this was still curated through my personal account, right? Like this was still very young. And I'm going to pull up the tweet right now for you actually, just because I do want to show everybody the flyer that has not seen the flyer before. Cuz it's actually a trip to see here. Cuz it wasn't long after this that we kind of launched as like a full platform. And then let's see here. Yeah, so I was collecting submissions for like 4 or 5 weeks here, it looks like. Looks like about 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, so okay. Let's link this tweet right here. Hold on. Let's check this out, man, cuz this is some interesting history here for sure. But yeah, man, not a lot of people know about this lore when it came to Music Mondays, just because the platform kind of got a lot of steam pretty fast. So I didn't really like dwell on it too much. You know what I mean? I was just like, fuck it, like, who cares? Let's just keep the ball rolling, essentially. So this was the first kind of the first format and like my first post about Music Mondays, which actually is just pretty rare for those that don't know about it. So in the caption, I'm talking about in regards to a Twitter poll that I took. I want to announce my new talk show that will be live every Monday. I'll be playing Skate 3 while discussing my music, the underground climate, and music in general for about an hour or so. Episode 1 live tomorrow. And this tweet was on January 17th of 2021. So if you scroll back in the calendar, January 18th was a Monday. So 2021, 2022, 2023. So like 2024 was the 3-year anniversary. 2025 will be the 4-year, right? So this was kind of like what it really was at first. Like I didn't really think that I'd be pushing towards a full platform. You know what I mean? I really thought that I was going to continue to like build the Zomb Slays brand a little bit and do this for a bit longer, right? Because like I said, I left UVC in September of 2020. So this didn't happen until the start of the next year, right? So I took those couple months off and I was like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? And this is kind of like the first idea that I came up with. And then it kind of rolled from there. So following that, um, I kind of realized, like I said, once we started taking submissions and once everything kind of got a little bit more popular and people were like, oh, you should review music on your stream and you should take submissions. I think one of my homies came up with that idea originally. And I did. I started taking submissions, but like I said, I didn't start streaming on my PC up until like probably like the 10th episode or so. Like right around the time that we like launched Music Mondays as a platform and a website and, you know, had socials and Twitters and things like that is really when I started streaming on PC. But I think right around at the same time is when I was doing all of this. So everything got like a full-blown upgrade. And we ended up doing that first episode. It rolled into the full platform era. And then once we had a full platform, 2021 to 2022 was all the podcast, realistically. Like I went full-blown heavy with the podcast. We were live every single Monday. I didn't miss an episode. That's why from like that 2021 to like 2022 span, I really look at like as those grind years, because Music Mondays was really not what it is today. And it even has more infinite potential, right? But those 2 years that I put in, right, like that first year, it was pretty fucking weird, man. I won't lie to you. It was pretty fucking weird. Like coming from UVC being like such a tightened platform, right? I mean, for those of you that know what UVC is, you definitely know that platform was on top for quite a while, especially with Underground Underdogs, Mascarilla, even Lyrical Lemonade was like much more popular than it is now when it comes to like writing and things like that. So it was a weird time. I mean, the pandemic definitely had a lot to do with it, right? I definitely think it did, but also like at first when we were collecting submissions, like that 2021 2022 era, man, it was nothing but like that like local underground scene, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like people being creative. It was like those like regular like hip hop artists, super like, you know, like cookie cutter pop artists. Like it was all cookie cutter stuff. Like there wasn't anybody doing anything interesting. And then it wasn't until like the end of 2022 heading into 2023 where we really started to tap back into like the old school style of like underground music, right? And like the new generation of people that, you know, kind of were putting on for like independent music and underground music and really coming up with some special shit. Regardless of whether you think certain people are cookie cutter or not, there's like that sonic difference of people, right? And, you know, there was just a point where Music Mondays kind of like struck gold. And I would say like right at the end of 2022 and 2023. And then, you know, obviously we expanded. At that point, we only had like 4 or 5 staff members, but now we have a staff of like 11 or 12. You know what I mean? So it took a while for us to kind of get our footing and really figure out like how we wanted to work the platform. Because again, the platform is centered around everything being free. We don't charge for anything. You know what I mean? Like submissions to the show are free. Submissions to our playlist are free. So like that was kind of like the goal behind it anyway. You know what I mean? Because I was like, if I'm going to make my own platform, I need to not center around just underground stuff, but I also need a platform that underground artists can go to for not only the latest underground music, right? But they can also kind of submit their work and like easily do a bunch of things for free. You know what I mean? Like there's no paywall. There's no fucking, you can't pay for articles here. You know what I mean? Like there's none of that. So that's kind of like the platform that I've always operated, and that's kind of like what I wanted to keep operating here when it came to Music Mondays. So 2023 was the real reshape of it, right? And we really like figured out like who we were. Because with me coming from such like a top tier platform, right? I wanted to just instantly like jump right back into it, right? I already knew like what we had to do, but it took time. You know what I mean? Like it took a lot of time. And that's kind of what was hard for me to understand at first. Because like I said, I had never been solo before. Like even starting a platform with like a team is much easier than this, you know, because I didn't start Music Mondays with a team. We started UVC as like a group of like 4 or 5 people. You know what I mean? So like when you have that many working behind the scenes, these platforms tend to work better. So that's why it took us longer to kind of like get our footing and get our foot in the door and start doing real shit. So that's why, again, 2022, sort of towards the end in 2023, was like the major like turning point because we started doing our own events, right? So when it came down to the first Cyberfest in 2022, we followed that up with the Music Money's Awards in 2022. You know what I mean? Like we were really cooking during that era, and then we started with the rebrand, right? For those of you that have never seen the OG Music Mondays logo, that'll be something that I kind of pull up, um, and really talk about. But it's one of those things, man. That's just like, 2023 was like the major turning point, and like we really kind of got an identity. You know what I mean? Like everything kind of started to fully come together. And that's where I was like, okay, like, this is definitely starting to work, right? In like the proper way. And we got Tark in the chat. What's good, Tark? 200 episodes is fucking nuts. Absolutely fucking nuts. GG's. Let's fucking go. Tark was here for a good portion of the early days as well, man. The Music Money's early days, 100%. 100%. But yeah, 2023, we switched our logo. Not like a massive switch or anything. We just had like a little bit more of like a basic look. And when we went into 2023 with the full rebrand, I think that's where we kind of leveled up. And I kind of started matching the energy of like a lot of platforms that were doing things aesthetic wise, but I didn't want to like copy their content, right? Because a lot of the platforms that you see popping, they'll only cover like the same like 10 artists, right? You have like your Yeats, your Summers, your the Opium Fanboys, and just like that whole section, right? Like people get enough of that news on the daily, but there's not enough news of like underground artists that you've quite literally never heard of that are fucking heat, or just artists that have super passions, or they have crazy stories, or things like that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where like the Music Mondays mission and brand really came from. You know what I mean? And that's just really what it is. I mean, like when we headed into 2023, I think we were only like what, probably like 140 episodes deep of the show at the time, right? But the show was just like, the show was almost like a seed to the rest of Music Mondays, essentially. You know what I mean? I kind of wanted to test the show and see if the show would work, and then I realized that there was a demand for, um, you know, a pure underground platform. And that's always what I've known. I don't really have experience doing like the easy clickbait shit because it's super easy to follow trends and things like that. But if you're taking the hit and like wanting to only support, veteran underground artists that don't get enough love, or, X, Y, or Z, I mean, you'll see us kind of like talk about mainstream stuff here or there, but that's just because somebody wants to talk about it, not because we feel like, it'll get views or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's just because somebody wanted to talk about it on the team. So, but, that main message has always stayed true for the last 3 years. You know what I mean? It really has. So yeah, I mean, 2023 happened. Like I said, we had a pretty solid 2023. I mean, the rebrand was great. We had the Music Mondays Awards at the end of 2023. I mean, like, 2022 to 2023 was even kind of remarkable as well, because I remember hosting the Music Mondays Awards in 2022, and we had over like something like 700 followers on Twitter. And then when we did the Music Mondays Awards in 2023, we had, I think, like tripled, and we were over 2K at that point. And that's where I was like, okay, like it was like a massive jump. It was a real massive jump, but like we didn't do anything different. We didn't really have anything blow up or anything like that. Like what we did was stick to our roots and stick to the vision that I had all along. You know what I mean? Was to create this ultimate platform for any underground independent artist. And that's why I think our message on the homepage is like super important. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people have read this and like committed to the platform just based off of this, right? And I think this is super important. Music Mondays was created with one goal in mind, and that is providing the underground creative community with a place to feel like their work is given a chance. We'll prove your creative endeavors are not a waste and meant to be heard. Our mission is to create a safe space for all independent underground creators alike. We hope to see you with your cup of coffee every Monday. For the underground, by the underground. Right. Like that's really what it is in a nutshell. And then of course you have this video link down here where I kind of do a similar rant as to what I'm doing tonight, but tonight's a little bit different because we have 200 episodes in the bag now. And I don't think we would have gotten here without the community support 100%. That's not even a question. Like, if we didn't have submissions to react to, if we didn't have tracks to put on the playlist, if we didn't have the community really like putting their faith in me, right? And like their trust in me to like actually be a real fucking platform, I don't think we'd be here. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that like I'm not a person that likes to pat themselves on the back, right? Because I have such big dreams and plans and goals for this platform. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, thank God for 200 episodes. Like, it was a great time. You know what I mean? Like, I only missed like 2 days in 200 episodes. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a bother on me. Like, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love it and feel like it helped people and feel like it's like doing good for a community that I've always loved and I've always been a part of. You know what I mean? Like uploading the show and tagging people and promoting the show constantly, like for 200 episodes. I wouldn't be doing that if that was a drag to me. You know what I mean? But the community is like such a big part of it that I think, personally, I absolutely want to say thank you. You know what I mean? Because this platform wouldn't be shit without the community, 100%. Um, we've grown exponentially over the last 2 years, because like I said, that like 2020, 2021 era was like some trenches, and we definitely made it out as like one of the purest underground platforms, right? Like true underground, like no bias, no nothing, you know what I mean? Like even in 3-4 years, like you can't say one bad thing about Music Mondays, and even if you can, that it's probably some shit that I've tried to address too, you know what I mean? Like we do our absolute best with what we're given, right? So outside of the community, the Music Mondays definitely wouldn't be shit without the team as well, right? I think the Music Mondays team is super important, and all of our writers, all of our curators, all of our designers, everybody who's even been in the Music Mondays team in the past, right? As you guys know, we've rotated a lot of roster members in and out. We've seen a lot of people come and go. So huge shout out to the Music Mondays alumni and anybody who's worked with us, and huge shout out to the whole team right now. You know what I mean? I think the team is super crucial to what we do, and like the team has always been finely curated when it comes to Music Mondays. And you know 90% of the team are artists themselves, right? They're also producers, they're also artists, they're also designers, so they understand where we come from as artists. And that was like my main edge, and like my main goal was to make sure that we're a pure platform for artists by artists, right? So that's why I don't really like bring other people on to like critique other people's music or X, Y, or Z, or none of that kind of shit. And that's why I made sure that I knew what I was talking about and only spoke on things that I know about. You know what I mean? Like you won't ever see me speak on things here on the show that I don't have any knowledge of. Like everything that I talk about or have spoken about here on the show is something that I've either personally been through or personally seen. It's that simple. So, I think we've done pretty well. Um, Kind of keeping our goal and keeping our morals and like our meaning pretty close, but we wouldn't have got to 200 episodes without the community, man. And without the community support, again, we're not shit, but you guys are the reason why I do this. You know what I mean? Like my artists, the Music Mondays community, like everybody that is a part of the underground is why I do this, because it's such a thriving, important space. And it always has been. You know what I mean? Like these are the artists of tomorrow. These are the artists of today. These are the artists that work their ass off and otherwise maybe might not even get a fucking look. You know what I mean? And that's facts. Like the music space and the creative space is fucking hard, and you need platforms to be able to like hear you out for a second. You know what I mean? Like doesn't matter what you make. It could be some crazy pop shit, it could be some fucking alternative shit, it could be some trap shit, it could be anything. You know what I mean? Like we've seen it all here on the show, but I've seen it all personally, so that's why I kind of wanted to give like an open canvas for everybody to kind of come to, no matter what space of the underground or independent art you come from. You know what I mean? So once again, man, huge shout out to the Music Mondays community. We would not be here without you guys. And cheers to 200 episodes, man. That's fucking beautiful. Let's get it. Round of applause for everybody, man. You guys are fucking lit. Jesus Christ, 200 episodes. My God. 200 is nuts. 200 is fucking nuts. I will say, man. Even no matter what happens, the Music Mondays podcast will always be here for sure. The show will always be here. The platform will always be here. Um, our vision is not changing. Platform's going to continue to grow. Everything that we do will always be free and easily accessible to the community. So, cheers to another 200, man, and congrats on 200. Let's fucking get it. Amazing, man. Truly, truly amazing. 200 episodes. I mean, I could talk about Music Mondays like all day. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that's it's really something else. It's really something else. I mean, we have such a long road to go, so I don't like to like pride too much on accolades, but I definitely will be celebrating a little bit tonight and congratulating some people and thanking some people for sure personally, and just wanted to give my personal thanks to the community, and I'm definitely gonna post that clip on like Twitter and shit like that, so nobody misses it. But you'll see this uploaded on YouTube as well, so make sure you go check that out. But